You know, like.
Okay, on Zoom, you can hear us now, right?
That's,
Good, I'm glad you're on.
that's what our friend was just telling us that we had them over the other day.
Can you hear us?
All of a sudden, career over our arms. But he said you can't text them, but it tells you to get calls, which you can't answer. He's okay with that. You just want to know when your phone rings.
Yeah, I'm good. with
So he
that.
doesn't
I just
care.
wanna be,
can't-
my phone rings or I get a text.
But you
I
never
sometimes
answered
don't
on
wear
your
my
phone.
watch on purpose.
That's his thing every time.
They think I'm a big.
He goes, none of your business.
As far as they know, I'm this giant fat. I wear my watch twice a week.
The first time he said that, I literally burst out laughing. I'm like, you didn't even watch on. None of their business.
My friend swears it saved his life, like one night, his heart rate got like super low. He went into the doctor, because he got notification,
Yeah.
like he had like some serious, like. I don't know, something weird, but he's like, yeah, that probably.
That's nuts.
It does have a rhythm, if your heart goes into,
Atrial defibrillation or whatever it's called.
like.
You got a notification. that you go to-
Whatever, it's not like your heart died.
But it gets like crazy.
Yeah, and it'll say, you can go see your doctor, and here's the doctor.
Oh,
Or you
it does
can,
that.
you can program it to like, send it to your doctor.
Oh, they happen.
No way.
I was gonna get with my mom, she was having some issues. And I'm like, it's time for you to get a. You know, if she falls.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the real.
You know,
I think so too.
Or just get an Alexa, and they can like call you from the Alexa.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Cause like if they fall in the shower and they don't have their watch on,
yeah. I could just yell.
then they can be like, Alexa, call Justin.
But then Alexa's always listening.
And Justin, we call people. Call 911.
Did you say your mom or your grandma?
my mom, call 911 first.
See, what do I do?
Sorry, I'm not showing houses, so I can't get to you right now. Yeah, but she loves her. She got
I
like.
don't know who's online. I hope they can hear it.
She's like, that in charge.
Yeah, this one that I ordered. here.
Right. Like, who is this? Yeah.
I'll like that.
When you get home at the end of the day, you kind of often like have.
No,
Okay.
okay. I am not time.
Okay, I was not that at all, but I just got a pair of customers. Oh my gosh, your feet look super.
It's
Cute.
It was like a bad real estate deal like a couple years ago with my friend Cassie and I, she's a realtor too, she's like, so shoes on. So I've had these for like years from Kohl's, but I was like,
Awesome.
I wear them all.
It's funny when you remember stuff like that. That's a good memory. Oh, man. I'm excited for people to show up because it's my favorite way.
I think it's July.
This is
Yeah.
Oh, this was it.
It's all the ones that the gym are all rubber.
To get here, I just need to get here.
Yeah. I to get here.
I hope they can, I keep asking. On Zoom, can you hear us? The volume is up on the TV.
Yeah.
I hope they can hear us, and they're just not, right, that's what I think.
And we're not muted. No,
I just checked.
no, because Bradley came over here and was doing his thing.
I would like to tell you who that is.
Okay.
Say we need to know, it's a real person.
Might be online. We have.
So,
They're not answering.
Yeah.
So with Judith, kind of funny thing happened. He called me and said, hey, I see you guys have a listing. Can I door knock that? I said, yeah, absolutely. You can. And kind of.
Can you hear me?
you're like, you didn't even actually need to ask.
Right,
permission,
but I appreciate it. In case someone
Yeah.
says anything, I'm like, I have no idea. So he did. And then the next week he called again. And I said, actually, would you like to do an open house? Because we have 2 others that we have to do. We can't do all of them. He said, yeah, that'd be great. So Corey gets this call from this neighbor who's freaking out that some like hoodlum came and knocked on her door with a hat on backwards and something else, and Corey's like, who is this? No, it doesn't sound like him, I haven't met him, but it sound like him. It wasn't him.
Yeah, I was like, it also doesn't sound like him to me.
No, because Corey's like, okay, if he hired someone to door knock for him.
There was somebody else selling something else.
But she's.
But Judah had already been there and left
The
our
flyer.
flyer,
Mhm.
so they called me.
He asked
So you
me,
wanna buy
he's
a
like,
house
"Do you know
now?"
this guy?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
pretty much.
You wanna sell?
Do you have any friends, family that might buy this?
And my neighbor.
Yeah, because probably no one.
We'll put on the Facebook page. They'll have like ring pictures.
Yes.
Have you seen this guy? He's on his way to your house. Doing
Come
this
on,
or
people.
call the cops.
It's not.
Ask for his, you
He's
have to
like-
have a permit?
Yeah, like a city,
I never did.
something.
That happened in Centerville to me and Jessica, who's,
Did it really?
when we were door knocking,
Did you get the
And-
cops call on you?
that, no,
No, they
that
called the
you.
cops.
They're calling
In my neighborhood, they're calling the cops and checking.
Do the cops just like roll their eyes
Yeah,
when they get there,
The
like?
cops have to come up and say, "Your
That's
permit."
so dumb. You're not selling anything, you're telling them about
I'll do
something.
it.
Yeah. This was about a pest
You have
inspection.
a, oh,
No, it's not me, it's
Oh.
like a pest inspection. A
Oh.
sprayer.
which is.
What's wrong with that?
Nelson Home.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they're like nuts. So I'm like, you guys need to calm down. It's just a door.
Yeah, yeah, I always see when people complain about stuff, realtors included, when they're just
Hey,
on their.
do you think this is? Cause you just said where you live. You probably posted on your social media that you're.
People know I live in West Haven. They don't have it. So I actually took a picture of my house, like 2 blocks over, and that's the one I post. Post mine.
Going off the trail.
They're like, oh, you have a really nice house. I'm like, well, look,
Someone does.
It's actually the model. I don't,
Right.
it's open from 9 to 5. Those 4 things to me. Yeah, it's crazy. Instagram's come out, they came out with a thing that will remove fake profiles now. So I get a lot of fake people
Yeah.
follow me, stalk me, and like make.
it's crazy the way, I don't understand what the heck.
Do you know I was on the Today Show?
I didn't know you were on the TV.
No, you didn't hear that part.
I was on, like, they're like, can we interview you? And I'm like, you don't sound, this is not real. Nobody's come to Utah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what you do on the Today Show. And so I thought he was a stalker, the guy calling me. And yeah, I did an interview with a couple of their,
No.
there were, everybody else is military. They can't show their face. 'cause they're all military.
Did they ever figure out why they focused in on you at all?
I'm like good enough to be like, hey, I want to do
You
this.
like the station.
Not so good.
But-
that
oh,
I
ask her.
can't believe
I
it.
don't know.
I needed a back.
No.
Just there's so many like
You didn't see
crazy.
him tonight, or you were something else?
I thought you, I'm just saying, it's weird that they
Oh,
would pick this guy from.
So random.
Right now.
West Haven, like, it's not a flashy town.
Like,
It's not-
things or something you
You
don't
don't,
know about?
you don't drive, like, purposely drive a Ferrari or anything.
Well, no, it's not that, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Son. and They go out. Usually like older. So like 65, 15. And they.
Tuesday and Thursday, but it ends next week. No, just kidding, it ends on Thursday. And then we'll restart it.
She's like, yeah, and is it to California, Justin?
I probably can wait after school.
Yeah, like FaceTime me, but we can't.
Like September.
So tell me about this.
Yeah, it's
Old
just.
lady.
So,
Seriously.
yeah,
You know me?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Don't sell your house.
6 months, or has a reasonable lease break. Tell me more.
Okay, so I have my clients, I just went and showed them the property, they didn't love it. So they've been thinking, because they're in a situation where they own a
So
mobile
we still my picture.
And-
Woman.
financing to get another mobile home, they would have to sell this one, even though they own it.
Cause the woman.
No
is
one
Like a
is-
sugar daddy.
So we're
reverse
looking at
thing.
other options for just.
So like, I would really come see you, but I've gotta take care of my business.
We just
Well,
to get it, so-
here, here's money. But here's what's okay. Here's.
Yes, I think I have a good thought.
Well, yeah, and I sound like Turks and.
They. We would love to do. Something where we can rent temporarily.
No money, I've got a shot.
And sell it
Social
quickly.
Security, you know, like, where you
And
get
then
money.
get gather
And
all our money.
send part of their social security to these schemers, and I'm like, if you're on social security, we're not matched.
Yeah.
If
That's what it
you-
is. That's what it meant, it's just.
Yeah. If
The
you're,
fact that they-
So, I don't know, maybe I'm pursuing.
but they'll talk to you for months, years. You just,
When it comes to renting, they're okay being.
if you can
Make two better.
Yeah.
do a FaceTime call.
Maybe 3 ideally, but.
Peter call.
if it's temporary,
And so.
I didn't know that.
You look like Corey and say, yeah, talk to Corey and. They're like, cool, it's still not me. No, we FaceTime. It was really him. I'm like, no, it's not. It's fake.
She's like, why is he playing this game? Dude,
So they put you on, so we went on the TV show. And stop.
I mean, it was all.
like
over
awareness.
Zoom,
Still, that's.
Yeah.
that's pretty-
Local.
Yeah, I won.
but-
And they could rent for like 2 months, right? Your Airbnb
Yeah, except I've got people.
coming.
Yeah, but what's your rate?
Yeah, so I have some clients, let me tell you this, right?
Or just maybe rent it out.
I'll, 3 months, I'll pull it up. So I have some clients, they are I-10, and they have at least 50,000 saved up, so we are able to get into some kind of property.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But they have a mobile home that they own free and clear, which obviously have a lot of rent.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're wanting to sell that and then use all that money to purchase. Now, they don't want to go under contract with the contingency of selling the property.
Okay.
They just want it easier for themselves. I already tried conversing with them, but they want to get out, rent temporarily so that they can fix up their mobile home, sell it for a little bit higher. And then, once they have those funds, then look at stuff.
Oh.
So they just need somewhere to live for.
Yeah, and so,
They
yes,
sell that.
exactly. So I told them, okay, there's 3 options. Either we do some kind of Airbnb, which is most likely able to do month to month. You do a 6-month lease and we just plan that in 6 months, everything needs to be done, which kind of is at that time because it hits us kind of December, January to sell, which is, ideal.
That's a pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like it.
That's-
It is, okay,
Well,
What
what's
was
the
on the
difference?
market? Yeah,
What's the difference?
mobile homes. Oh, mobile home.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're gonna sell them all sooner than 6 months.
Or are
Yeah, they would sell it right now,
That's
right?
why she said
They
it
would,
fix
well,
it.
for
So they
buying
wanna
it's
fix it
ideal,
up.
for buying it's ideal
They
in
wanna
January,
fix it up.
December, because it's less competition and it's a little better, from what I understand, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I like somebody.
Do they?
I feel like you're only on there if you really want something.
Okay,
It's your turn, Corey.
You go, you go.
Why are they fixing?
Is it gonna be worth
well,
it at the time?
and this is where I've been trying to talk to them, it's worth it because they would get some difference in it. I think right now, when we did the numbers, they probably wouldn't be able to sell it for more than 60,000. But if they fixed it up, some comparables are showing closer to 80,000.
But then they have to rent somewhere for so many months.
Right, which for them, they're okay. He makes about 6,000 a month. She makes an extra amount, and for them, it's worth it. I don't see how it's worth it.
No,
Actually,
mathematically, it doesn't.
it doesn't make sense to me, but to them, it's not really a finance thing. To them, it's a convenience thing.
Okay.
To them, it's more out of comfort of not being living in a place that you're fixing up, because whatever property they buy, if it's not up to their standards, they want to completely remodel it, because he works in construction.
Oh,
So that's where they want to be able to rent a space in the meantime so that they can fix up and sell. And then if they find a property that needs some fixing, they're still living in the rental, fixing it, and then
where are they?
they're in Layton. Okay. Yeah, and they want to stay anywhere between Layton and we just saw one in Woodcross. It's probably down a little bit like that.
See, here's the problem. I've got one that's like a mile from here,
Oh my, maybe.
pretty much, like this is my calendar, like this is July, those are all the people, August. September.
So they'd have to like, well, they short notice, they probably have to bounce Airbnbs anyways, but jump.
Yeah,
And I've got October, even a person in October, like I don't have a solid like booking. Like,
being able to book out the full month?
Not
And how much
really.
does it cost to book out? the
It
full month?
depends, I have a, I don't know if you wanted to do even 6 months.
Yeah.
Cause we could do
We
it
could do it
6
for more.
months.
I wouldn't want it to be up in.
Right,
I could do a 6 month, but I wouldn't be able to start October.
which we could wait till then, but I don't know. if we- For me.
I just feel like. Yeah, like motivation can change and all that.
Yeah, right now they're high motivated.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like you wanna get them on a plan to something, but unfortunately, it's one.
And because they're 18, they thought that was an obstacle, and they didn't even think that was a
Mhm.
possibility. But after looking at our options, it kind of got them excited, like, oh, we could do this,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we could probably get land. And so I want them to stay with that excitement, not
Right.
until I don't want to wait for
Or
that.
for them, it makes more sense to wait to fix it up versus to sell it for 60 as is today.
For them,
For them, it makes
I would be really curious to see if it's really gonna go up. That's a lot
I know,
of a change.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true
and I would
too.
run the rent, like, so if you rent it out for like,
They're expensive. A
Or
month is expensive.
what, $3,500?
Probably.
plus they have their lot fee still,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
about like, I believe theirs is at around 700.
Seven.
But right now, for example, like you state, I have another client there, we're selling. The lot rent went up to 1,093.
Well, yeah, so you're
Crazy
like
to me.
$4,000 once, or six.
That doesn't make sense. And
It's so
look,
much.
things could change.
Yeah,
What if you tell them 80 and it's not 80 and they waited 6 months?
yeah,
That always gives me a little bit of heartburn when we try to predict what's gonna happen. We tell people, we're like, we don't know what's gonna happen with that. Your next door neighbor could sell for super low and all of a sudden the whole neighborhood.
well, and it also
You
kind
just
of
never know.
gets me a little iffy, because I have no idea what might happen with the election. That's
Okay,
kind of
Cindy
also
is
going
online, and she can hear us. We just can't hear
And
her.
then there's a 6 month period, like, what if that doesn't? I don't know
I,
how much
I
it'll
always,
change,
this is
but-
the way I always tell people, like, we give you the information we know right now, but we cannot predict the future. So if you wanna make decisions based, we have a client right now that was like, last year was like, oh, the market's gonna heat up in the spring. Not really.
Yeah.
Not for their house here, everybody.
I'm started.
And then we ended up chasing the market down. So we've got some worse situations.
Yeah, I would really ask a lot of questions. about
Why?
the,
Yeah.
like
What if it's not
Justin
remaining?
said, that's what I would really like to break the numbers down.
Yeah.
If
I think I need,
60, simply 80, I mean, they gotta be conservative. I know he's in construction, but that 20 grand, if you're gonna go with that, it's gonna get you done really quick. And if you write it
No
black and
mobile
white.
home prices. I don't know how that works either. How volatile are they? I have no idea.
they're so, it's like another world, because they are like cars, and so some people don't
Yeah.
even go into it, like, the understanding of like a house value. Like, they just kind of go, oh, I like it,
Right.
I'll pay whatever. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
which is great, but it's also not
Okay,
so
I'm
great.
gonna head out, but
Okay.
Cindy is online and she can hear us, but we just can't hear her. And I can't,
That's fun.
I can never get this volume to work
Okay.
on the TV.
How do we work the little chat?
So
Yeah.
what you can do is just click on the chat and read it, or you can leave it up.
No.
What some people have done is write their phone number or give their phone number out and they text you questions.
Oh, that's fun.
If
We
you,
can do that.
whatever you want to do.
Let's do that.
Um,
I can figure it out.
I'm gonna leave. I'm not my neighbor. I have a.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, just right there. Okay, I think it's recording.
Can I put my number, because I'm gonna be here longer, and I'll.
Sure.
Okay,
That's
This
how your
is
number's taken
Annabella.
out.
this is Corey
Hi,
Bergner.
yeah.
And this is Cindy online. So
Hi.
over here is
Hi.
Corey, you can't see him, but he'll come in a minute. This is his wife Rhonda Bergner. It is, you're just not in the view. Can you see?
Oh, see, I'm in the.
Yeah, now Rhonda's in it. So there's Corey. And then this is Justin in the red. And they are gonna teach you guys
He's our
about
scribe.
making and receiving offers and negotiating.
Excellent.
Hey, love it.
I use this.
So Annabella and Cindy.
Oops. Sorry, this is really funny. Or are you
I'll
using that?
push Send on that message.
Oh, here, you do it. Sorry.
I try to push enter. everywhere.
It's easier from that angle anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You know that.
Okay, thanks.
But there should be a clicker. like a normal-
That's what I'm looking for.
It's a,
Oh,
that one, it should work.
yes.
Yeah, no. You should just hit the board button.
Uh-huh.
Or,
Might have to hit the arrow key.
we
I did.
the.
Is this
Oh,
me or
yeah,
you?
that's you.
That's,
Okay,
that's,
good.
or that's,
That's me.
That's you.
All right. Let's do this.
here, we'll check.
Okay, good idea.
This is a bit overkill.
He's actually running to the Airbnb in Layton now because it's a really nice place and people have been really nice, but the last person put a hole in the wall. So we had to patch the hole in the roof. I gave him a terrible review.
It's not ideal.
Hmm,
Here, I'll sit where.
yeah, would you? Thank you.
Yeah. I do have to head out like around 6:15, because I have
Excellent.
a meeting, I hope that's okay.
Excellent. Bye.
Right here.
Okay, oh yeah.
You're right.
Okay, so what I'd like to do normally when people are here is to go through and kind of see where everybody's at with experience wise, like how long have you had your license, how many deals have you written, just so that we know kind of where we're talking. So we don't talk above you, below you, all of that. So let's start with you.
So I got my license in March.
Okay.
I was kind of in the real estate world since 2018. I was an assistant to realtor.
Oh, nice.
So I knew some things.
Okay.
Obviously, I wasn't licensed to do everything.
Okay.
But I got my license in March, and then since March, I've written up. Had a client, unfortunately had to postpone that in. Right when I started, end of March. Then I've previously written about like 4 offers.
Oh, good. Okay, so have you closed any?
Yes, we're under contract with one
Okay,
right now.
okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. Cindy, are you able to speak through this? We just can't hear. Okay.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Cindy, send us a selfie too.
We have something.
Okay, we'll pull up the chat and then I'll just kind of, I don't know, can I do this when you're doing that?
So you should be able to click it. No, you don't have phone.
Oh, let me hear you. I think you just have to hold it. No,
You shouldn't have to point it.
I shouldn't. I'm going backwards. Oh, she did something? Oh,
No
no selfies,
selfies.
okay. Here, okay, that's funny. That's okay. All right, I'm trying to do something that's not doing it. I'm wondering if in the chat, is that it doesn't have to do. Let's try that. Okay. All right, I like to go through just basically what I like to do. Let's just start there. I like to go through the material so that I'm covering the material, but I want to make sure that we gear it towards the questions you have and to meet you where you're at. So stop me if something doesn't make sense, or you just want more clarification on something, because we're here for you, not for us. I don't really care if we, I want to cover it because the material is good, but at the same time, I want to make sure you get something out of it. So the offer process, pretty simple, right? The buyer makes the offer. And then this is what we tell our sellers all the time. You can respond in one of 3 ways. You can counter the offer, you can accept it, or you can reject it. Very rarely do we just flat out reject an offer. Very rarely, even if it's ridiculous, unless, well, my disclaimer is unless it's from, we call these blind offers, where you just get an email from somebody who's in a different state and they're just offering, and let's say you have the house listed for 600 and they're gonna offer you 350. Those I might not even bother. They're considered blind offers, but if it's a true buyer that walks through the house, and Justin, let me know if you disagree or how you do things, but what we've always told our sellers is you have a buyer's signature. Let's see what we can work with. And even if they come in super low and your buyer or your seller thinks it's insulting, so much of it is how you present the offer. So if you go in as an agent and you're like, oh, this is just crap, I can't believe they did this. Like, what's your seller gonna say?
Yeah.
So you say, hey, this is not where we wanted to be. This is not where we thought we were going to be. the dates look good. They didn't ask for your refrigerator, you know, just little things kind of go through it and say, hey, no, the price is not what we want. They might be trying to see how low we're gonna go. They might be trying to see where our bottom is and we can come back and counter. And that's kind of how we present it. And sometimes they'll say, every once in a while we'll get a seller that's like, oh, it's not really worth my time. And I'm like, well, what if we countered at X and they accepted it? And they're like, oh, okay. So just keep that in mind.
I always tell people like different cultures go feet differently.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true too.
And so some cultures think, oh, let's start really low.
Yeah.
And their agent may have not coached them very well on making a good offer and
Mhm.
how it works. And so you counter at 20 grand.
Yeah.
And say, okay,
Yes, that is so true. They might just, yeah, it could be a whole different thing. I've never even thought of explaining that way. I usually just say they might be trying to see where our bottom is, because if you are representing a buyer and let's say you go in, let's say the house is at 500 and you go in at 490 and the seller accepts. Sometimes the buyer's like,
should have offered lower.
for at 480, you just don't know.
Right.
So if you get that counter, then you know, this is where we were at. Obviously accepting the offer, that's simple, right? Because they accepted everything. And countering is probably the most common thing that we do. Because if you change anything in an offer, and what I should do, and I'll do this the next time I teach this class, is actually bring a ref. I'm gonna show you guys the things that we often counter. When I write an offer from a buyer's side, I try to write it so I don't get a counter.
Right.
Because if the agent is writing up an addendum to counter something in my offer, it's so easy to change the price. So if I see in the MLS that they don't plan on leaving the refrigerator, I'm not gonna try to sneak it in.
Right.
Because it's so much easier then to be like, refrigerator is excluded, and by the way, we wanna come up 10,000. I try to make everything fit what the seller wants.
Right.
So what do you think the best way is to do that? How would you know what the seller wants if you're on the buyer side?
To call the agent.
Yes. Call the agent, call the agent. A lot of times agents will text me, which is fine because they're trying to get the information too, but I can tell you if we would have had a back and forth conversation, there was probably things they didn't ask that I could have told them that would have helped their offer. Like, for example, their other house closes on September 1st and they would like 48 hours to get out, those types of things.
Right.
So when you're writing the offer, try to think of, my goal is to try to not get a counter, unless you have the client that says, let's go in and see what we.
Have you guys had experiences where you get on the phone with an agent and they kind of ramble?
Yeah, and I let them go.
Yeah, okay.
Let them talk, because like I had mentioned to you, we have several clients that are getting divorced. I never, ever disclose that unless I have to, because that hurts negotiation.
Yeah.
Right, if I'm representing the seller, I'm not gonna tell the buyer's agent, this is a divorce, oh my gosh, just please, this is a nightmare. Like, I've had agents tell me that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You just told me they absolutely have to sell, it's court ordered.
Yeah.
I'm going in now, but
The lowest I can.
yeah, so Corey's really good, it's because he's so quiet on the phone that people think he hung up, but he's listening. Because they'll start rambling and then we'll tell him things and he'll hang up the phone and be like, okay, guess what? I just found out we can do this and this and this and got our clients more things. So call them, but try to stick to the facts. Like, you know, is your seller purchasing another home? Do they need a little bit of time to get out? Because that's something agents don't think about. We normally like to have possession upon recording because it's easy. That's just like what we want. But if there's 3 people moving at the same time, your buyer's new house is buying another house and they're buying another house. I'm in one of those right now. There's 4 of us. And the one at the end never asked about possession, and those agents didn't realize what they did. So now they're pushing all of us. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
So those types of questions really help your offer. And if they say, I'm not gonna say this is a secret of ours, but something that we often do is we won't include the washer, dryer, or refrigerator on the MLS, even if our seller says, I don't want it. We just don't put it. Either way.
Negotiation.
Yeah, and we tell them, we're like, hey, what if during the inspection, they're like, hey, this and this, and we say, do you want the washer and dryer? And they think, great, we just got a washer and dryer. Really, they were gonna KSL it anyway.
Right.
So those types of things, call and find out. Anything else to add there? I feel like it's pretty straightforward.
I don't put the fridge under the water.
You just don't say.
I just leave it off.
That's what we do.
MLS.
Smart.
That's what we do. We don't say included or, because I tell my people, I'm like, even if you're out of state and you're like, I don't wanna deal with it, you won't deal with it, I'll deal with it. I'll
Yeah.
put it on KSL and say, some, come and get it for free, or I'll sell it for $400 and I'll send no.
Yeah.
I've done that several times, but yeah, and sometimes agents will call and they'll be frustrated, they'll be, he didn't say, I'm like,
You didn't
depends
ask.
on the offer,
Yeah, that's true.
make it a good one, and then we'll see what we can do with it, so. We just did. Amazing. Okay, preparing the offer. See what they have there. These are funny. In the sense that you would think that they're so obvious, but let's say that you printed out the MLS sheet to go show your clients 3 days ago, and then they woke up this morning, and they said, I want to write this offer, and you just pull up that MLS sheet, you just start writing it up. Check the MLS. How do you know it didn't go under contract unless this has happened to me where somebody has sent the offer and I'm like, did I miss this before? We've been under contract for 3 days, so. Make sure, obviously, it's still available. One thing I will ask, if you're in the MLS and you're looking at the status and it says active/TC, do you know what that means?
That they're taking backup offers.
Kind of, sort of, but not really. Close.
This actually just happened to my client. We went under contract and the seller came back to us and asked for this. So
Uh-huh.
it's that they can get an offer and then we would have like about 72 hours to
Or
either
whatever
take
you
our
put.
contingency offer. Yeah.
Yep, so it's considered a time clause.
Time
So double check that too, because if you see that there's a property that has a time clause on it and your people have a house to sell and they're gonna be contingent, call the agent, be like, what's their situation? Is this even worth putting an offer in? Because it might not, you're gonna be in the exact same situation as that first one. Because I did have an agent, actually, who's from this office, call me not too long ago on a listing of ours, and she didn't know what a time clause was. So I just explained that, because that's something you just don't think about until you run across it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
We were in the situation.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
You can try to inquire about the activity. When people ask me that, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you. Because if I tell you it's been slow, you're like, great. If I tell you it's been busy and I don't have any offers, both of those are bad answers. So, but I ask, but don't ask me. I'm gonna-
Right.
And I do ask, do you guys have any offers on the property? I don't care if they had any before. To be honest with you, I'm worried about today, right now. Just because, unless if I thought it was under contract for 3 weeks, if I looked at the history on the MLS and saw, I might ask you what happened with that one. Number 5, I just talked about that too. I don't really say motivation, I'm just saying, do they have another house? And sometimes I just say, what's their situation? And then the agent just.
Could you say, what are their needs?
Well, I specifically ask, because if you say, what are their needs, they might just say, oh, they just need to get a lot of money, but you're like, when do they want to close? If your people are flexible, fantastic. So you can say, hey, my people are flexible, would you guys rather close in 30 days or 40? What works best? And those are the kind of questions, so I get specific. Because if you just ask a general question, what are their needs, you're not really gonna get that out of them, I don't think.
Okay.
I don't know if there's
Ideas. Even if the number's not right. Dates match. Bridges included,
yeah.
like the little things, people just say, okay.
Yep.
And they'll just sign it.
So raising it like that, what's their needs?
That's good,
What's
that's
the
a good
ideal
question.
Situation.
Yep, that's a really good question. The other thing too is, what I would do before you call the listing agent too is call the lender, which you should. Of course, your buyer is already pre-approved and they have their lender, and ask the lender, how quickly can you close this one? Do you have everything you need on this person? And that way, when you talk to the listing agent, you're like, hey, we can close in 3 weeks. I just talked to my lender, or we can do a traditional 30 day or even more, what works best for your client, but do that homework up front. I don't know what number 6 means, to be completely honest with you. Ask them how they want to receive the offer. Always send it. This is why Rhonda isn't my guess. This is not a rule, but I think you should always send it in PDF. When people send it to me in a link in .loop or DocuSign, I lose it because sometimes I can't pull it up on my phone.
Yeah.
Or it'll just whatever, and then I go search for it later. The link died. Send it in PDF. That's again just I think a good rule of thumb. And you'll see some agents when you read the MLS notes, they'll actually say send in a PDF. Do not send in .loop.
This makes sense.
It really does. The links drive me crazy.
Or an edited one,
Yeah.
where you can change the, don't do that.
Obtain the buyer's pre-approval. You should already have that. Or at least, you know, be close enough to know that they can shoot you over a letter in 10 minutes if you need it to. The reason it has tax records on there, it's not so much to make sure that they're current on taxes, it's to make sure that you're writing the seller's name on the ref sheet correctly.
Okay.
Cause sometimes you'll notice on the MLS sheets, the agents will just put on record. Or I've had it where the sellers have a longer name, it cuts off the name, and then somebody sends me the rep sheet, and it's like, let's say the last name's supposed to be Hutchinson, and it's like, Hutch. I'm like, Hutchinson, and then you have to fix it later. So look in the tax records just real quick and just make sure it matches. We had one time where 3 people were on title, the listing agent didn't even know that, we were on the buyer side. So we wrote it to, you know, John Smith or whatever, and we got the title report back, and there were 3 people on title. It was the
Wow.
parents and co-signed for the son who had the house,
Oh,
and we're like, well, I hope the parents want to sell because we can't move forward if they don't sign.
Right.
So the agent didn't know that, so
So
if
does
you,
the name have to be?
it should,
Okay.
it should. Close enough, because what'll happen sometimes is the lender will come back later and say, hey, can you send me an addendum to clear this up? You know, just try to get it all up front.
Even if it's a cash offer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because they still, yeah, even if you don't have a lender involved, because title still has to do paperwork on that, so.
Okay.
More so for a lender, but for title, you still want to write too, so.
Right.
Pull it up in tax records, a comparative market analysis, did you guys go through this in any of your other classes, how to do a CMA?
We actually just did it this morning.
Excellent. Okay, good. So what's kind of funny about this is we used to do these so much in the past. Where I would run like 5, you can run a CMA, we could all run them and we'd all come up with different numbers because it's art and science, right? It's kind of how we say it. But if there's 10 offers on a property, like when COVID was nuts and there were 20 offers, I didn't do a CMA for a long time. I didn't remember how to do. I was like, I don't know, I haven't done one in a while because does it matter? If the house is 400 and the agent's like, hey, we're above 5 already. Why am I gonna do a CMA?
Yeah, nuts.
There's no sense. It's like, it's gonna sell what it's gonna sell for, and then in 3 months, the market's gonna kind of, I'll be able to do CMAs then when things jump up, but. Seller's disclosure statement, sometimes you'll have this attached to the MLS, but a lot of times you don't. So don't worry about that until you go under contract, then the listing agent will send that to you.
So when you write the offer, you want to put it in CMA?
No, that's for you.
Oh.
That's for you when you write the offer for your buyer. So let's say the house is worth 500, you guys write 500, but the CMA should be 450.
So it's
as
more
your
to
agent.
know what's
Mhm.
offered.
Cause your buyer might ask you, well, is this price right?
Yeah.
And you kind of have to know. The other thing that we've really noticed the last couple of years is. If I've got a buyer in the 500 range, you can tell by walking into a house. Yeah, this is like the others. Or no, it's not, or this one's nicer, and that's the one they want to offer on. It's kind of rare that that house. Let's say you walked into 5 and you're writing an offer on one. And it should be 450, it's kind of rare, that's my opinion. But back in the day, we used to do those all the time. And then we tell them, so this will tell you, Justin, how long have you been selling? Okay, before us. Our hot price point back in the day was 165. So I remember running these CMAs, I'm like, no, that should be 161. So we write the offer at 161 and we were getting them accepted. 'Cause we're like, that's what CMA says. I don't know. Now it's a lot more, kind of like when you said when they walk into a mobile home, they're like, I like it, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more like that.
It's so emotional.
Yes, I feel like it's more like that. That's just my opinion. Maybe it depends on price points too, but for sure know how to do them. So that when your buyer asks you, do you think this is worth this? You can say, I never say yes. I say, how do you think this compares to the other houses we saw? Oh, this is nicer. Great. Well, those other ones were priced around the same. So based on that, because let's say you say yes, and then the appraisal comes in low and they're gonna look at you. So it's like, I mean, things happen that sometimes don't make sense, so. I'll pause, we're just doing them as we go. Write the offer. I covered some of this already, actually a lot.
Oh, I
I
have a
hit on a
question
couple, yes,
on 5. Sorry,
Yes.
can I jump?
excellent, no, that's good.
So with due diligence, I have this scenario now where I kind of want some tips for the future. I feel like it's kind of blundered maybe with one of my. I'll
Okay.
just say it right up front.
Happens.
well, it was a learning experience for the first one, so originally we had an offer on my listing, on my seller's listing. And we went under contract and everything, but their due diligence was like really close to closing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Someone
that.
got you.
Yeah, they got me. They walked out. Probably because they were still looking through properties. It was a cash offer,
Oh,
so clearly they were. I'm certain they were still looking at properties.
Sure.
And right, they just wanted to lock in his place. Obviously, that screwed us because we were under contract for about like 2 weeks.
oh.
Yeah, it was bad.
And then they walked out.
And then they walked out.
Yeah, and again,
They can't because we were due diligence. So obviously for my buyers, that would make sense to
Mhm.
try to push the due
Yes.
diligence as far.
yes,
How,
kind of.
so what, yeah, what is the scope for that?
This is every situation is gonna be different, but let's say we're just going in on a regular house, there's no other offers, you talk to the agent, this is your buyer's first house, they don't have another house to sell. This is what I used to do. I used to do, kind of depends on the day of the week too. Approximately 7-ish, 10-ish for due diligence, because I want them to get, I know I can call my inspector and they can be in there in 3 days. So I want them to get it right away, so that if there is an issue that cannot be resolved with the seller, we can move on, because you want your buyer to be motivated. And when they turn off, there's so much emotional things that happen, there's so many emotional things that happen when you buy a house, and if they've been waiting for 2 weeks on due diligence and they just did their inspection on the 13th day and everything's falling apart, they're gonna get them early. So 7 to 10, and then if I go under contract on a Monday, Tuesday morning, they're getting an email and a call from me. Hey, here's our next steps. Contact the appraiser, or excuse me, contact the inspector. Here's your earnest money. Let's boom, get it all done.
Right. And
when you submit your offer to the seller, they're like, oh, great, I look at due diligence. I'm like, what are they doing waiting 3 weeks? There's no way I'm waiting 3 weeks,
Right.
you want to get it in. So that's my rule of thumb, 7 to 10. And it kind of depends on the client too, because I want to make sure that they can be at the inspection. So if they work crazy hours, let's say I've got a husband and wife and they work opposite shifts or whatever, I might try to push a little bit more just so that they can kind of save their schedules, but 7 to 10-ish. It's kind of what I do. Seller acceptance. Typically, the rule of thumb is 24-ish hours-ish, depending on the situation. Keep in mind too, we're in Utah, so Sunday kind of sometimes, like I try to get an answer immediately. I don't want to wait till Monday because I don't, especially on the weekend. So I might ask the listing agent, hey, I'm gonna put tomorrow at 5. Are you cool with that? It's a Saturday. So like, yeah, I can get you an answer. Great. And then sometimes they're like, no, my seller's not gonna do anything, or I'm not gonna do anything. Okay, at least I know. The other thing I wanted to mention too, because there's so much confusion on this, the deadline on the REPC is an acceptance deadline, not a response deadline. So let's say you have till Tuesday, sometimes an agent will call me, and we haven't heard, and I'm like, well, we're countering you. So the Tuesday at 5 doesn't mean Tuesday at 5. It means, because we're not accepting.
But
Just
if they,
keep that in mind.
but if they never answer you, then you assume it's rejected.
Yeah, unless they should communicate with you, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell them, hey, we're writing up a counter, I'll have that to you tonight or whatever, but that deadline is not a deadline, it's an acceptance deadline.
So how do you have a conversation with your buyer, who's also a seller? In my case, yeah,
Okay,
my seller is waiting for their buyer who has inspection on the 13th. Originally, the due diligence was for the 10th, but because with mobile homes, you have to have HUD certificates.
oh, yeah,
Anyways, it was crazy. We had to pull up certificates. It took a bunch of business days, so we had to push the
Mhm.
buyer's due diligence. It was fair. We
Yeah.
accepted to do that. But now, my sellers, now as buyers, their due diligence ends 10th tomorrow. And they didn't want to do inspection until after their buyers did inspection.
did you make it contingent on selling their house?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I told them. We have that safety, and most of it for the property they're buying is, the reason they're so scared is because they had just ended a contract, and so they lost all their inspection money on that other property. And so how would I converse with them of like,
Can you go to the listing agent on the other one and say, can we extend our due diligence until?
we have tried, and she's not. It's been a nightmare. Let me just say, this thing should have closed in May, and we're still in July.
Did you send her an addendum to do it?
Yeah,
And she just didn't respond to the addendum?
yeah. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of frustrating.
That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I literally had to go to the house of the sellers
Because with mobile homes, the seller can hold on to the earnest money check, because you can't hold it.
Oh, yeah, there's no title.
So I gave them the check and then I explained the situation. I said, obviously, talk to your agent, I'm sending her the forms, but this is what's happening. Is that okay? I don't know if that was appropriate of me, but I didn't know
I would think you have to.
at that point. And they were like, yeah, we don't see why not, but I need it in writing. So what do you do then?
What do you do then? And we're talking 10th tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
I don't know. I think I would have told my people just get the inspection. But
Which
But-
I have,
yeah,
but to them,
they don't want to.
they don't want to.
Still have that subject.
Part of me, what I told them was, okay, well, we have like that, yeah, we have the,
Thank goodness.
thank goodness, we need to sell before we buy anything. And secondly, we do have a $700 warranty plan on the house as part of the contract. The roof is only 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
you know, everything is updated, it's a smart home.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
like,
that's good.
I'm telling them, just,
Like all
if
your
you wanna
major
take that risk, take it, but I don't recommend.
Yeah.
That's on you guys, but know that this is what's happening. Is
Yeah.
that how you would have approached it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would tell them, hey, if this makes you too nervous, you have until 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have until 5 o'clock. That's probably what I would do, because you want to absolve yourself, like. So
fine.
they're not worried about their buyers backing out. They're worried about doing an inspection, finding something on this house that we can't go forward.
No, what they're worried is paying for an inspection and then their buyers back
Okay.
out and then the whole contract's fall and
Okay.
they lose more money on inspection.
Did they already have, did the buyer have an inspection yet?
It's on the 13th.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
waiting till the 13th to do it. Okay.
Yeah, our buyers, yeah,
I think I would just tell them, hey, these are your options.
yeah.
You guys can literally cancel that one if it makes you too nervous and then wait until this one on the 13th.
Mhm.
Or knowing that it has a new roof, knowing that you have a home warranty, I cannot guarantee anything else with the house. Maybe that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's kind of
That's
the
kind of a tough
conversation I
one.
had. Yeah, it's. no,
That's a tough one because it's not supposed to happen when the other agent just doesn't respond ever.
Yeah, I don't know what's. Cause she
That's
will,
their part.
she won't answer calls, she only does texts. Which I don't.
Yeah, like it's good to get like a quick answer to something, but there's things that you, I'm sorry, I don't know. What, other than that, that's probably what I would do.
Sometimes I call the broker.
Yeah.
I'm not very smart.
If Ron will, or you won't answer, I call and I'm like, Ron, I gotta talk to you.
Right.
You text me back, I'm like, cool, I need to talk to you, so when are you available? Just text me, right, but I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm just like, okay, just call Sean,
Mhm.
like,
And then you can just say, I'm concerned about their safety. They haven't got back to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something weird is that.
well, I'm concerned about the seller not getting communicated to, because I can't communicate to the listing agent. And
Yeah.
So how is the seller, so I need your help to check out.
Are they usually pretty responsive?
I usually get a nasty message from the agent, but
It's affecting you. There's connection.
So Corey, what's funny with Corey, if you ever don't answer a text from him, he copies and pastes it every hour on the hour. Like he'll get a response, but to get somebody to call, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really frustrating because that's not.
it's all right.
Yeah. Oh, earnest money too. Definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's say $500,000 house and your client says, I don't really understand what earnest money is. How much should I put down? You know what kind of conversation you have?
So I had two situations. The first client, so we ended up having to cancel due to financial reasons. We did as minimum of a down or as an earnest money as they could, which was 2,000,
Okay.
but the property was about, I think it was 359.
Okay.
So that was, I think
That's
it's
good.
reasonable. With mobile homes, it's a different world.
Yeah, it
Earnest
is.
money was like
I don't even know.
250.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just saw one, it was not for ours, it was for another agent that we were helping, but it was like $500 earnest money on an $800,000 purchase, and 21 days later, they were gonna submit another, so they were doing a state of because that's a red flag to me, like, are you okay? You guys, should you guys be out house shopping? We can't-
Yeah.
So what they do in other states, Texas specifically, and I just know this because we sold the property there, it is 1% to the dollar. That is their earnest money. So there's no like, I kind of feel like putting this down. It's like, no, if the house is 600, it's 6,000. That's what you're doing. But here we try to tell our clients, 1% is about what we consider a good earnest money, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. But I would say try not to do it in stages if you can. We did do that a long time ago, I do remember. But that's not, I don't typically see that now, and if it's $1,000 or something on a $600,000 property, I'd be a little nervous. As the buyer's agent, or I mean, as the seller, I'd be like, oh, now 90, I don't know what percentage of the time, for us, probably 99% of the time, we don't get the earnest money anyway. The contract's written so much to protect the buyer that something pretty drastic would have to happen, but we did have one years ago. I think the house was 700 and the people put 2,500 down. And we were supposed to close on Monday and the buyer literally walked out on this job on a Friday. And that's all my sellers got. And they were not happy. They were like, we should have got more than that. We're like, yeah, you're right, you should have. But that happened. So some agents are like, oh, earnest money doesn't matter. They'll always get it back. Yeah, they probably will, but they might not. So if you're on the seller side, look at that. It's not how I make a decision, but it's part of the offer and you want it to look good. So it does matter. Financing terms, you should know that because you're talking to the lender. But I've had agents submit an offer like it's conventional, and then 2 days later, they're like, oh, here's the FHA addendum. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, we talked to the lender, they're gonna go FHA. Like, you didn't present the offer that way. It could have made a difference. If you had more than one offer, you might have, depending on, not that FHA is a bad loan, but if somebody's, well, anyway, that's just something.
So before you accept an offer, you really wanna check if it's FHA.
You'll know because they won't send the FHA addendum. So that's what I mean, is they sent it without the addendum, and then 2 days later, they were like, oh, hey, this is the kind of loan we're gonna do, and I'm like, what? We should have known that. So if there's no addendum, then it's conventional
Okay,
or cash.
and they can't then later, after you've
They
accepted an
shouldn't,
offer.
they can, but they shouldn't,
Okay, so
without us signing.
technically can.
They can, as long as my seller signs,
Well, they technically can't unless the seller.
unless the seller signs,
So
yes.
Technically, it's not. The seller has to sign, then will allow you to get FHA.
So they couldn't
The
cancel
council
it right then.
The seller could, say,
So-
no, you didn't send this right,
Part of this is
that happens.
when you're accepting an offer, you call the mortgage company person that wrote the offer. Say, hey, conventional. You didn't ask the question to the mortgage person. And that's what you would.
My favorite question to ask too, have you verified funds for the down payment? If they're gonna put 200,000 down, I'm looking at that and I'm asking the lender, have you verified it? Oh, they're getting a gift from so-and-so, have you verified it?
Yeah, that was what happened in my first one. The lender never verified certain financing, and we literally backed out of the contract.
So did they give you a pre-approval letter or a pre-qualification letter?
Pre-approval and everything, but then. Anyways, not working with that lender.
Yeah, because there's it doesn't come up very often, but it does come up where somebody will send you a pre-qualification lender, which I can go online right now and get you one that can say anything I want it to say, because basically I just say, this is what I make, and they just spit out a thing. And nothing's been verified. And if you read the letter, it'll say, this is not, blah, 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 hasn't been verified. They haven't looked at tax returns. They haven't looked at pay stubs.
So there's
So
a difference.
You want
between
approval. You just remember you want approval.
Okay.
And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, I'm like, oh, I caught that. That was a qualification. I want to make sure they're good.
So that's important to double check, pre-approval versus pre-qual.
Yeah. And sometimes we'll use the words, or we as agents will just use it interchangeably, but there is a difference. You want the approval. That means they looked at my pay stubs. We did have a guy coming from out of state years and years ago. Told us all he made a certain amount of money, and the lender was like, not even close. We got his pay stubs, and it is, there are no numbers like that on his pay stub. It is not even. So you want to make sure that they look at it. The rest is, I feel like it's, the 11 is not, well, yeah, I guess it is valid if we're talking about FHA or VA. So I guess I'll talk about that real quick, but the rest of this is kind of obvious. So you have to put in a closing date, if you're writing the offer.
Which doesn't have to be the same as possession.
Doesn't have to be, no, because you can change that either. Is it section 4? I don't remember, might be section 4, where you say what you want possession to be, but again, you'll know that because you're talking to the listing agent. Hey, can they get out right away? If it's a vacant house, obviously upon possession. But if they're still in it, you might want to ask that. Home warranty. I pretty much write them for all of, I can't think of a time that I don't write a home warranty. Unless like during COVID when there were 20 offers and you just had to find a way to weed them out. But
A reasonable warranty is like 700.
that's the highest, unless you do something that has a certain number of square footage, and I called the company, I had one that was like that 8,000 square feet or something, and it was more than 700, but yeah, 700 is the most that I've seen, once they raise their prices for years, it was like 300, 350, and now it's creeped up, so yeah. Yep, repair limits, the only time, and this is only for appraisal required repairs, is on the FHA and the VA addendum. So the first time you do one of those deals, you might have some questions on that form. But that repair limit is not for the inspection specifically, it's for the appraiser. So if the appraiser goes out and says, oh, we hate your shed. Hi there,
How's it going?
good. We hate your shed. You guys have to repaint the whole thing. And you put 0 for repairs on the FHA VA addendum, technically, the seller doesn't have to do it. It's kind of a weird thing because we tell our sellers, okay, yeah, they put 0. They don't have to do it, but if you don't do it, they can't get the loan. And let's say I've had buyers painting things. I've had that a lot of times where buyers have been painting a garage they don't own yet because they have to have the appraiser come back out and say, you're gonna go. So hi,
Hey, how's it going?
good. I'm
Good.
Rhonda.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kyson.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. We are going over all sorts of fun stuff. Have you written any offers yet?
I have not. No, I've been
Oh.
to almost all of these, but
Okay.
I was a little late today. So
You missed so much fun, but we'll go over a lot of stuff.
cool.
So you,
We're just gonna start.
yeah, let's just go back.
Just go back.
We're talking about, so what I was explaining to them at the beginning, this material is kind of written for every single market across the United States, right? But I want to make it relevant to you and where you're at. So there's some things that they say on here that these we all do. But there's a couple of things we'll come up on. I'll say this, we don't do this. I'm just gonna tell you that.
Okay.
Like they're used, I don't know if they have this in here anymore, but they used to have option money. We don't do that in Utah. They do that in Texas.
What's
We-
option?
So it's basically money that the buyer pays the seller for taking the house off the market for a certain amount of time during the inspection period. Like we literally got a check in for 120 from the buyers. We're like, what is this?
Is it like
and they're
earnest money? It's different.
It's different because we get to keep it no matter what.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was just like, so I can't remember exactly if it was a certain amount of money for how many days they had as an inspection. And then they sent us that money. It's kind of weird.
And what is, like, what's the purpose?
I don't know. It's like additional, like, hey, we put earnest money down, but we're also
It's like
going to
brownie
pay you.
points?
Yeah, I don't really understand it. But we were like, we don't do this in Utah, and our realtor there knew that we were licensed, and she was like, you guys don't have option money? I'm like, no, I never heard of that, so. So let's do this, whenever you have an offer to write, you can just call us. I'll just
Okay.
help you.
Sounds good.
But you guys have access to all of this information, right? Like the materials,
I believe so.
all the,
Not
okay.
Allison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sends it out to us.
Okay, good, because if you're ever looking at some of these checklist items, like, hang on, let me go back to one. Like, for example, this is telling you to prepare to write an offer, and it's saying obtain a seller's disclosure statement. We don't do that when we're writing the offers in Utah. You can, because they might be attached to the MLS from the listing agent, but it's not required, and a lot of us don't do it.
Right.
So you won't have that, so if you're looking at this checklist, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have this, you're not gonna have everything. So no worries. So these are really things that you need. And the good thing is the REPSI outlines them all. Like there's questions for all of these, so you'll know.
Really, it's a matter of reading the rep sheet and really understanding.
True story. And Corey will tell you this, he has I should take a picture of his nightstand, is the weirdest thing. He has a picture, Corey's my husband, he has a picture of, he has a rep sheet, he reads the rep sheet, literally he can tell you like paragraph, word for word, and the ethics. Like however many ethics, nerd. And he'll be like, nope, somebody will say something, he's like, nope, number 13 in the ethics, can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But the rep sheet, I bet you, and I bet Sean would say this too, I bet 90% of the calls he gets are in the rep sheet. It's in there.
Yeah.
Like I had one time where the agent called me because the driveway was ripped up. It's kind of a weird thing, like the house. He went and saw the house, it was vacant, and then he brought his buyers back and the driveway was completely ripped up. he's like, what do I do? I'm like, look in the rep sheet, has to be in the same condition, because they were under contract already. It's
Yeah.
not that they saw it and then went back, they were under contract. I was like, the rep sheet says it has to be in the same like general-ish
Yeah,
condition.
or unless you get consent of the buyer.
So I'm like, go back to the, because the seller, the listing agent was like, oh, I don't really know what happened, I don't know what to do. I'm like, this is gonna cost your buyers how much to fix this driveway, and it was a roofing company or something that went back to something, a truck up, and they ended up fixing it, but it was kind of a weird situation.
Crazy.
What's the RIPC?
Oh, the real estate purchase contract.
Okay,
So when you write an offer, that will be like the most, every single offer has one of those, whether it's cash or a loan
mhm,
or seller finance. Do you do one on seller finance? Do you do a rep sheet? Yeah, you still do a rep
Yeah, I
sheet.
used to do.
I'm trying to think, is there ever a time that you don't do a rep sheet? There's never a time that you will not do a rep sheet.
Mobile home, it's a mobile home purchase contract.
Okay, see, there you
can't
go.
use the reps.
Can't use a
It's
rep sheet on a
illegal.
mobile home purchase. Okay, we'll call you. If you
Yeah,
ever have a
yeah,
mobile
yeah,
home, 'cause
mobile
I
home.
don't know.
I
that.
become quite familiar.
I was
with
trying
it.
to think of an example, so that will be the most common form that you will ever use.
okay. sounds
Yes,
good.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Because that means you're writing offers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go for that. Ooh, oh heavens. Okay, it's like if I lost that, we're in trouble. I'll just talk. I'm just making sure. Okay, yeah, obviously. On your first couple of contracts, I would say send them to someone in the office, put them in PDF, don't send them in DocuSign, don't send the link. Put them in a PDF. Read them over, maybe have somebody else just once over them, just to make sure that there wasn't something glaring that you're like, ooh, what? Especially, I think Sean would say this too, like if you're using an addendum for something, try to use the standard clauses that are in the MLS, and that will make more sense later, but just so you know that they exist. Because you can pull up a form and it'll just populate it for you. Don't try to write it yourself unless you
Yes.
don't have a choice. Unless you're trying to do something so whatever, but run that by Sean, because I bet that's probably one of the most common ways that agents get in trouble, because they'll try to just write a statement like, do you remember when escalation clauses first came out? Oh my gosh, the way people were writing those, I didn't even understand what they were saying.
They were like trying to be an attorney
They were seriously.
and really you're not.
Well, in some of the ways they wrote them. During COVID, it was insane. Like, I remember one house, we had like 22 offers, and I was like, literally, like, how do you get rid of? So you were just going through, you're like, well, they asked for home warranty, that goes in the no file, because you just had to get through them somehow. And some of these clauses, they were doing escalation clauses that never, ever ended, ever. Like, we were just like 2,000 here, 2,000 here, 2,000, and the way that they wrote them was just nuts. And I was like,
Cindy online says it doesn't matter who in the office we asked to review the contract.
oh, if you guys are in the coaching program, ask Allison. That's what I would say.
When you go to write a contract, are you writing it from scratch or is there
Mhm.
like a template?
It's, well, it's a form in the MLS, so
Okay.
yes, so it's
I don't.
from scratch, but it's form.
Gotcha.
So you just fill in the form.
Okay.
Like, and I was telling them, and I'm really glad that you asked that, because the next time I teach this, I'll actually bring a rep sheet and kind of show you guys, like, hey, this is kind of how you fill it in. Because some of it is easy. And the way that I do it, it's probably not the way that you do it, probably not the way that Sean would want me to do it. I don't write it from the MLS. I literally have the MLS sheet, and I'm like, I know, it's weird. Do you do it that way?
No, I preload
Yeah,
the MLS number,
most people would.
and it adds in, oh, like. So you take the MLS number and adds in a lot of the details for property, and then I review and change. Before, and then I do it different, most, and I print it out and then put it in.
Well, that is different. Okay, I don't do that. You wanna know why I don't know what this means. Like, you can diagnose me with something. I don't like the different fonts. Because if I do that in MLS and then I bring it into Dotloop, because I still use Dotloop, I don't like the font differences. So I do it all in Dotloop. That's just my thing, and I've always done it that way since the beginning of time, so that's just what I do. It's weird. So when we were training John's like, no, I wanna do it just like you do. I'm like, no, I'm doing 5 more steps than you have to do, but this is how I do it. So I'm very comfortable in how I do it. It's weird, but anyway, it's in there. And if you learn to do it the way Justin does, which makes more sense, you can put the MLS in and it'll just populate a lot of the fields for you automatically. Yes, and you're gonna have to make a lot of adjustments on there, because it's not, gonna write the
It'll
offer.
fill
when you
like
want.
5 of the form.
It'll just fill out
in.
all the information about the property that
Mhm.
the MLS has, and then you have to fill out everything else.
Like
Tax
the
numbers.
price. All the dates.
Mhm. So the first time you write an offer is gonna take you a while, probably the first 5 offers is gonna take you a little while, which is fine, and then once you get down to it, it's like. I don't know how long it takes me to write an offer, not very long. I can just whip one off, but you'll. You wanna know. What mistakes to avoid, and what's so great about, are you an individual agent?
I'm in school right now, but I
You will be.
yeah, probably.
So you'll do listings and buyers. I learned so much when I first started by being on the listing side. Because I would see these offers come in and I'd be like, what are they doing here? And then I asked Sean, he's like, that's not right. Or they would do something really good and I would think, oh, I like the way that they wrote that. I'm gonna kind of adopt the way that they did that. And that's, yeah, because like your email that you put with the offer, I'm not flowery. When I get an offer, I don't want to read. Their kid just had a birthday and they're so excited. I don't care. I just want to know, like, do they want the house? So my email is pretty brief. That I send with the offer. I don't just say, here's the offer. I'm like, here's our deal. This is what we're doing. Boom, 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 because somebody had done that to me years ago. I'm like, oh, I like that she did that. And what she wrote at the end of it still stuck with me. She said, did she say it? We've analyzed this property compared to others and we made our offer the best that my clients can do. And therefore I don't expect a counter offer. And I'm like, oh, we can't counter offer her. She said she didn't expect, like, that just got in my head. So sometimes I do that, not all the time, but sometimes. So you'll learn a lot from being on the listing side.
Cool.
Learn what to do, what not to do, what things you like, things you don't like.
You see a bunch of examples.
Because like I said, when people send you a link, here's the offer, click on the link, I cannot stand that. Because we have several different emails and sometimes it'll pull up a different profile and then anyway,
Right.
send it as PDF.
Yeah.
Just send it as PDF. Review it, so that's common sense. Look it over, have somebody else help you, make sure. Be sure your buyer understands it. Don't just shoot it to them in DocuSign or .loop and be like, hey, sign. Like what we do sometimes, if we've got a new buyer, and let's say that we didn't do a buyer consult with them because the way that we met them was at a house or something. Sometimes I'll actually have a form in a folder that I have with me in my briefcase and I'll just bring it out. I'll just say, hey, I'm gonna send this to you later electronically. These are the things that highlight the offer and I go over it really quick. Sometimes I have people that I send the contract and they've never read it. I know they didn't read it because they sign it before I even had a chance to, like, did they sign it yet? It's already signed. And then other times people are reading every single line.
Yeah.
So I try to, and sometimes you can figure out who those people are while you're showing them houses. You'll start reading body language. You're like, oh, this is an analyzer. It's going to take a while. So then I try to go over it first.
Mhm.
But
Will you like sit down with the buyer and
in a
go over
perfect
it?
world, yes.
Like,
In a perfect world, but sometimes you'll show them the house and then they'll get home and say, hey, let's write it up. And then you're like, okay, yeah. So you're like, you're not gonna wanna wait, say, well, let's sit down tomorrow first. You're like, well, I'm writing that thing up. They're signing it, we're good. But, and I'll tell them, I'll say the most common questions people ask. This is gonna change in the next month with the buyer agreement changing, but what I've explained to them in the past is the most common question people ask is about the commission for the buyer's agent. So I go over that. And then I tell them, we're gonna write up the rep sheet. We're gonna write up the offer, and then if we're asking for closing costs for the seller to pay, that's on a separate addendum. Sometimes they don't see that, so then they're calling, where's my closing costs? We're like, keep scrolling. It's on the next addendum, so you'll get to know what questions buyers asking, you just preempt that up front. But speaking of people not signing, we literally just had a client, he's a 3-time client, I think. And we wrote an offer for him. And we got him 9,000 in seller paid concessions. He signed everything. And literally like 2 days later, he's like, hey, the lender had told him, well, Corey and I got you guys, 9,000. Well, he's like, seriously, that's awesome. He didn't even know what he signed. Oh my God. He was like, oh, and then he said something to us. He was like, oh, you guys got 9,000 closing. That's so cool. And then he's selling a house. So he said, well, wait, who's paying the closing costs on my sale? We're like, they are. We didn't negotiate, like,
Welcome.
yeah, you're like, it's like, oh, that's amazing, but he never read. When sometimes it's a personality thing and sometimes it's a trust thing.
yeah,
Like if they're sending it to me and they've already explained stuff, but I don't know, as a buyer, I feel like I would know if I had seller paid 9,000, but now he knows, but he's very excited. conveyances, just so you know, we talked a lot about this, that's like your refrigerator, your washer, dryer, the place set in the backyard, anything like that.
Would
So,
that be where you put fixtures that are staying with the property
mhm,
and like personal property that's staying with the property?
personal property, that gets a little tricky.
Uh-huh.
It's a little too much for today. But I will tell you, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the lender, depends on what it is.
Mhm.
So what we've done, we had a lender tell us this years ago, and this works 90% of the time. If I'm writing something in, let's see, what's personal property and what's not. Let's say it's a hot tub and a playset in the backyard. Those are kind of, it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah,
Cause there's not a checkbox for that, right? So it'll say, there's all the checkboxes, refrigerator, microwave, washer, dryer, those are all there, and then below it says other, and there's a line. I'll put hot tub and place that in the backyard included at no additional cost to the buyer. And just adding that no additional, sometimes the underwriter's like, oh, we're good, we don't need a bill of sale for that.
gotcha.
It'll save you paperwork down the line.
Yeah, otherwise they need an additional
Yeah.
bill for that,
But if you put like all living room furniture and blah, 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 that gets a little tricky.
right?
You're gonna wanna put that on the bill of sale.
Does that get confusing? You do, staging and furniture stays and that kind of stuff?
And the furniture stays, like they're gonna buy the staging furniture,
Yeah.
you'd have to have that on a bill of sale, as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't know any lender that would be cool with adding that on.
Yeah,
That's gonna.
It just-
Oh, you do know?
no, I would
Oh, yeah,
do a
bill of sale.
Because it's
You're
personal
gonna have to do
property.
it.
And it's so much of it,
Yeah,
if it was one thing, depending on what
You have
it
to
is.
do a bill of sale, that's coming.
Oh, yeah. That's not a,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
you're right,
makes sense.
that's not even a seller, I didn't even think of that,
yeah.
bill of sale,
Well, I had a situation where
that's a good one.
my mother-in-law was
I'm
selling her
going to
property.
mine.
She staged it, because she's just extra. And then she sold it. I love her, she is though. And she then sold her house with all the furniture.
Mhm.
Then that would
Still,
be,
you could
still
still do a
do
bill of
sale.
sale.
Okay.
Yeah, cause we bought homes that were furnished and we had to do bill of sale on those. So, but like I said, hot tub,
You're buying a
place it, you can squeeze those in.
You're buying a resort type.
Mhm.
place, it's good form for that.
oh, is it?
Yeah, like if you sell a condo up in Eden or Huntsville,
Uh-huh.
we've done those where it's bill of sale. You're supposed to outline everything. Anyway, it's good when you get to that point where you have those questions, like, don't be nervous, cause that means you have a client, you're ready to knock, so it's great. That's just a phone call and you can get all those questions answered. No standard of common terms for offer, yeah, that's what I was talking about, option money, things like that, we don't do that.
Yeah.
You'll know what the common terms are, cause you'll hear them and you will see them. Know what is essential in your area, I don't know what that means, I'm sure it's a smart statement, I don't know what that means.
Oh, like, what kind of, like if there's restaurants nearby, that kind of stuff?
No,
or-
this is talking about an offer, when you're writing an offer, know what's essential in your area,
Would it be
so.
like what you were talking about, how like parts of the offer, like the offer money isn't essential?
Yeah, the earnest money, like what we do, yeah, that could be,
Could be
What's-
something broker specific. Some brokerages require certain forms be signed or not, some including and not included. Like we have,
yeah,
you
that's true,
have to sign saying you're gonna get an inspection.
yeah,
That's not a requirement by the state, that's our.
Mhm.
oh, that's true, that's a good one, or like, I've had some agents and I actually feel bad for them. Like, they send me their whole buyer broker agreement, like, don't ever send your buyer broker agreement with an offer, I do not need to see that, and I do not wanna know it, and another agent just recently. Sent, I don't think he meant to, but like, I know how much commission he's making as a buyer agent off of our listing, and I was like,
All
We
of
should
that's
call
gonna
him.
change in
true.
So-
That's true.
about a month, you will,
You will have to.
Okay, that's true, I forgot about that, yeah.
for now,
I
yes.
should have said that. Yeah, but those are the things. Rookie agent mistakes, I don't. Have somebody else look it
You're gonna make
over.
mistakes.
You're gonna know,
Yeah.
and I can tell sometimes when an agent sends me an offer, like you had mentioned due diligence. If somebody sends me 3 weeks due diligence and then finance and appraisal is 2 days later and closing is a day later. You can't do that.
Well, that wasn't even from the rookie. that was from
Yeah.
the broker,
Well,
so-
she was doing that because she knew what she was doing,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
you writing an offer, like. Ask your lender, I guess that would be the best thing that I can say, is when you talk to your lender, say, hey, I'm writing an offer on these people. I'm looking at, we're gonna do like inspection in 10 days. Appraisal in 3 weeks and closing in 27 days, does that work?
Mhm.
Do that, so that you're not. You know,
I think
sorry,
the
I
biggest
think I'm.
rookie
going too
mistake
far.
there is not.
Yeah. Was it fun meeting you?
Thanks, nice meeting you.
Is what?
Biggest rookie mistake in my opinion is not asking.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah.
great one.
Like, I think,
Yeah, you hear the saying, take it till you make it. Don't do that when it comes to paperwork. Ask any question. You look free.
I would
Legal
someone,
will help you, team leader will help you, other agents will help you.
Yeah.
That's-
and if somebody asks you a question you don't know, like, I always tell people my favorite response is, you know what? I think there were some changes on, let me check with my broker, make sure I'm giving you the right information. Because I'm not saying I don't know, I have no idea. I'm saying, let me check on that, let me make sure.
Yeah.
So. I think that's good. Sorry, I'm not even looking at the time. I think I'm in your time.
We're not gonna fight.
Time.
We're not gonna battle to the death in the parking lot.
Yeah, I think we've got that. Okay, we talked about house every time as we go. Present the offer. See how much we're reviewing, now we're double checking it. Follow instructions, so what that means is in the MLS, if you're looking at, do you know how to look, oh, you don't have MLS access, okay, let me just tell you. When you look up a property, it's going to give you, there's public information and there's agent information. So you're gonna see the agent information. It's gonna be great. It's gonna say agent info. And sometimes agents write things in, sometimes they don't. Read it. Because if they say, if you send me an offer on Friday, I'm not responding till Monday, then don't put, I want a response Saturday by 5. Read their instructions. If they say, don't send it to me in .loop, don't send it to me in .loop. Send it as a PDF. That's kind of what they mean.
So when you're sending an offer to a listing agent, is that like the first time you're contacting that?
Shouldn't
agent?
be.
Shouldn't be?
Shouldn't be. We went over this on slide 2.
Okay.
So you missed it. It was
Sorry.
very fun. No, it's okay. What we were saying is the best thing you can do is pick up the phone and call the agent. Call the listing agent, say, hey, I've got an offer. We just saw the house, or my buyers want to write an offer. We just saw the house, blah, 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 blah. Justin worded it really well. He said, what is the ideal situation for your buyer? Because you want to know,
Yeah.
do they want to close quickly? Do they want to close slowly? Do they have another house to buy? Just a million things could happen.
Right.
Yeah,
That's why I asked him the question, letting him talk.
Just trying to figure out the situation
Yeah.
before you.
yeah, because
Justin was a listing agent, I was gonna buy his listing. I would just call Justin. What's the best? How can I make this the best?
Mhm.
And then he'll tell me what he wants. Bang, 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 and then I know I can or can't do some of those things, so then we can talk.
Yeah,
like you don't want to write an offer, hey, we can close in 2 weeks, and your seller's like, whoa, I didn't want that.
right.
I actually
should-
need more time.
Communicate
Yeah,
before you.
or I want
put
to
that on
let
the
my
offer.
kids finish school.
Uh-huh.
And as a listing agent, sometimes I'll write stuff like that in the notes and sometimes I don't, because sometimes I don't want to scare somebody off.
Right.
And be like, hey, we need a 60-day post-closing possession. Oh, well, you just screwed yourself, because a lot of people are gonna be like, we don't want that.
They're not even gonna look at it.
Mhm. But maybe they look at it and they love it, and then I tell the buyer's agent, I'm like, hey, my sellers want to stay in as long as they can afterwards.
But it's worth it because they already love it.
Yes,
Gotcha.
you might be able to do that. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't call me.
Right.
So call, and I don't know why, like, I'm always excited when I get an offer in my email, like it's super, it's like this just exciting. But if it's somebody I haven't talked to, I'm like, oh man, like, let me see what they have here. And sometimes it doesn't line up with what.
So if you're a listing agent and someone sends you an offer and it doesn't line up and they haven't called you, would you call
Yeah.
them before you
Oh, yeah.
counter offer?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'll
hey,
call
this
them.
is why I'm gonna counter. offer
Yeah.
Because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And sometimes I don't tell them exactly what it is, but I just say, hey, I'll present it to my sellers, and like I make contact with them, but ideally you call, or if some agents don't want to call, text, but do something, but ideally call.
Right.
It's my opinion, because that's when you can get a conversation going. We talked about this a little bit. Some agents reveal way too much. And we hang up, we're like, they should not have told us that. If your clients, anything, and it actually says that in the listing agreement, that your job is to protect your sellers, so you're not gonna share anything about them that would impact negotiation. So if you say something like, oh, they're getting divorced, they have to sell the judge that they have to sell,
Right.
you just impact
You
negotiation.
reveal how urgently they want to.
Mhm.
Can't they tell you that you can reveal that?
Yes.
Yeah, they
You work
could,
for the client, but that would be your responsibility.
but that's them shooting themselves in the foot.
Do you mind if we hold that card back? Usually if you talk to this client, they should listen to you in the professional charges.
I can't imagine somebody would go, no, we prefer you tell them,
Right.
you know? Or a lot of times people say, why are the sellers selling? That's just straight up nuts.
Everybody says.
Why are they selling?
Why are they moving?
Change of circumstance. I never say, you know, you're getting divorced or military transfer. I never say that.
When they say, why are they selling to me? I say, why are they? I don't even answer the question. I just immediately say, why are they?
I'm like the kinder one. I'm like, how do I
I
scare
forget all about what they just asked.
Right.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Email summary, I talked about this too, I can't remember if you were here, I keep my email really
Yeah,
short.
yeah.
I don't wanna read their life story, and the other thing too, and I think Sean would be okay with saying this. If they include a picture of themselves with their kids, in the letter, I do not present that to my seller.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we have to,
It's,
and I'm trying to
I thought-
protect my seller,
Thought the board that love letters,
or not,
I don't think you're.
good, I never did.
Yeah.
Good, I never did. And I would have agents mad. Well, did you send my letter? No, it's not part of the offer. I'm not sending your letter. Because heaven forbid. Yeah, heaven forbid somebody comes back and didn't get it and they say you didn't get it because you didn't like the way my family lived. I'm not putting my sellers in that situation.
Right,
You're selling your seller up for steering.
I think so.
yeah.
That's.
It's like
Right.
glamour shots, pictures. It's really weird, but yeah, I don't do that. But some people still send them. Yeah, which is weird. But but I will put a little blurb in there. I will try to do something like, if we're in the house, let's say that I have the buyers in their military and we're going through the house and we see uniforms in their closet, I'm gonna mention they're military. I'll say, hey, my people are military, they're just moving from such and such. They like this house because it's near the base and I'm trying to, you know what I mean?
Right,
The
right.
listing agent may or may not share that, but if they're like, oh, they're military, they're coming from there, the sellers might be like, oh, no, they're military.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's.
So those
that's
are the-
buyer's agent.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's me as the buyer.
Gotcha.
But that's in your email summary. Notify the listing agent. I notify them, even though I told them I'm gonna send it, then I follow up with the text. It's in your email.
Mhm.
Cause we had one years ago and I felt really bad for this agent. We had a bunch of offers and she said, I'm gonna send one. Well, everyone says they're gonna send one and they don't send it. It went to my spam. And I found it like weeks later. Oh.
Hopefully it wasn't a better off, but.
Yeah, but she never followed up. If she would have texted the offers in your email, we would have been, oh, okay, but it went right to spam and I felt really bad. I thought, oh my gosh, she thought we just ignored her and
Right,
didn't tell her. Cause even if there's 80 million offers, I will notify every person. Thank you for your offer. We took another offer, blah, blah, blah. You wanna do that? So add all documents to command. I don't do that. Do you do that? Okay, we'll talk about that another time. That might be something where we should be doing.
Being recorded.
Yeah, this is being recorded. You should always add your documents to command. And consult with your buyer. I guess in that term, you've already gone over the offer with your buyer. They've already signed it. I guess at that point, you could
I
tell,
think
hey, I just submitted it.
Yeah, I tell them, hey, I sent it over.
We're waiting.
or to just like keep them on track of how the timeline is
Or like you
progressing.
sign the offer and then like 30 minutes later, hey, got it, send it to Rhonda. I'll let you know as soon as.
Right.
So like, you're not like, oh, just.
That's true.
Signature.
Yeah,
So
we do that. And I just didn't even think about it. Yeah, you just do it. It's
Yeah.
like common sense.
you're like, hey, I got your signatures, send it
Yeah.
to the listing agent. You're the first call as soon as I hear something.
Yeah, cause sometimes the buyers will be like, did you get it?
Right.
Cause they sent, you
Did
know,
you
you're like,
send
yep, I got it.
Did it work?
Yeah.
It's
Did you
good
get
for,
it?
like Justin said, that's
You're
You're sending
walking them
the-
through.
the path for your buyer to, it's their office thinking, just, we do this every day, so we're like. this is- But they do not, so they're on pins and needles. He calls and says. Hey, got it, it's submitted. Probably here tomorrow or the next day, I'll call you right away. They at least have a general idea of what's going on, other than, hey, we just submitted this into Neverland and we don't.
That's true. The other thing too, we talked about the deadline on the real estate purchase contract is an acceptance deadline, not a response deadline.
Mm,
So you'll tell your buyers, hey, we gave them until tomorrow at 5 to accept. But if they counter us, it might be after that. So you want to set that expectation so they're not calling you at 4:55. Hey, what's going on? Did you hear?
'cause when they
Okay.
counter, they'll set a new
Uh-huh.
acceptance
It-
deadline.
Yep. Yep. And if
And
it
then they
goes,
can just
yeah,
Keep
exactly.
piling on.
Good.
What's the most like counter offer trail that you've had?
15 addendum.
Yeah,
Really?
It was, and you don't want that.
Sometimes you get forced into that, though, especially
It's,
if
people
you have an
don't.
agent for some
Oh,
reason,
probably, I don't know,
it's not
15.
aging. I guess that's the correct way to say that. Then you run into more of that, because everything has to be in writing, they don't figure anything out on the phone, so you just keep that back.
Right.
And that's that,
Like your whole communication is just counter.
yeah, and that's frustrating. Because it's a waste of time, like if it was me and Justin, we'd have it figured out in one phone.
Yeah.
We would just know, all right, this is what everybody's gonna do. We send it, and the only way that would change is if we did something stupid.
Right.
Oh, we gotta fix it.
But there are some agents that like, I'll just send it to you, you can figure it out.
Yes,
It's true.
And then you read it to your clients and you're like, well, this doesn't work, you have to count it. But then I won't answer the phone, I'm like, oh, just count me back.
yeah,
And Corey's like, just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Counter me back on.
that's what I meant, yeah, it's weird like that, but there's no need for, that's the whole point, that's our job. We're supposed to, he's a
Negotiate.
professional, I'm a professional, let's talk through this and figure it out. Yeah, that's. Anyways, and some people, for some reason, some agents think they're not allowed to talk about this,
Mm,
which is not accurate. You can talk through the whole deal.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of being a listing. You take the listing, you tell your people, I'm gonna negotiate on your behalf, fiduciary. And then you're supposed to negotiate.
Yeah.
That isn't negotiating, you just said, no, just said,
right.
okay,
Well,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I think, I mean, I'm sure you guys do this too, but you get what your client can do, like what
Mhm,
they prefer to do. And then maybe what like the end of the book.
Mhm.
Like when anyone willing. to
Yeah,
do.
so then when I call Corey, he's like, hey, if you come up $5,000. This, my client was like, well, I'll come up 7. I'm like, yeah, we can do that.
yeah, exactly, that's because he's
Absolutely.
talked, that's what I'm saying, he's.
But if you're
talked-
countering, you don't know.
He knows, I know what his goal is, I know how bad he wants it or doesn't, and I know what my parameters. So when I negotiate with Justin, him and I are gonna figure this thing.
Right.
Whereas if you're just bouncing it back and forth, those almost never work, it's just such a pain to figure those.
I don't know if we've ever,
Yes,
have you
we
had
did.
15 before you even got accepted?
No, like through.
Oh, okay.
Through the,
Okay. Cause
The
we were
transaction.
on 7 before we even had an acceptance.
Yeah, sometimes crazy. So I'm not saying everybody's.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. Be a professional, know your client, and then you can figure it out.
Right. Just know what they want enough that you can actually talk to, so that you're not.
And people get. They're stressed too, if you're constantly going, well, this is what they said, I don't know what they're thinking, you know, you get the person that does that stuff. You just transfer all that stress to your
Yeah.
client, they're already stressed. So. Stay calm, take the emotion out of it, and go back, all right, we got an opportunity, we got a signature. It's $100,000 low, but
It's my line.
we got a signature, so let's figure this out.
That's literally my line. You just used it. I said this at the beginning. We talked about you can accept, counter, or reject, and I said you never, if you can help it, try not to reject an offer. Tell them, hey, we have buyer signature, so let's try to work something out
But present it to your client
in a positive way.
way to do it. I mean, that just makes all the difference. You take all that negative emotion. leave it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to do the best you can for your client, not just on paper, the experience of buying a house. Getting into it.
Mhm.
I'm just reading through this really quick.
We're pretty much gonna use up all of Justin's.
I know, that's why I was like, I'll just move out of the way.
What time were you supposed to start at 6?
We don't know. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I can. Make sure the offer is complete. Obviously, when you get the offer, you look it over.
Uh-huh.
Did they send me everything? Did they?
What's the percentage of times you've gotten a contract that's correct?
Oh, very few. Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
That's
That's
good.
why I have someone look it over. So I know I tell a lot of stories, but it is what it is. We had this client one time, we got 12 offers on their house. This was before we had multiple offers. It was the weirdest situation ever because the house was 1980 and they were asking us, should we update it? We're like, no, because where do you stop? Just sell it as it is. But it was in a neighborhood in a ward where everybody wanted to be and people were fighting over it. It was crazy. Anyway, we have all 12 offers. We printed them out. We brought them to their house and literally it was like, okay, we think they meant this, but this wasn't checked, but we'll we're gonna confirm that, but we wanna go over price with you first. We're very positive. We didn't say we don't know what these agents are doing. We get to the end of the 12 and maybe there was one that was like
Decent.
decent. And I don't mean price wise, I mean filled out wise. And he's like, wait a second. He literally was a rocket scientist. He said, wait a second. These people hired these agents to write these offers and none of them are even filled out right. And we were like, trying to be positive. We're
He
like,
said,
well, we can
he
find
said
it.
you guys should get both ends of the commission on this, because you guys are basically doing both.
Uh-huh.
This was a client that never done real estate, doesn't know anything about it. He's observant and all this. He figured that out.
But it was
So
so
that's why
bad.
she said, be complete,
Mhm.
take your time.
Yeah,
And we didn't bother calling the agent on each one at that point. Because we wanted to know, okay, dates, price wise, let's narrow these down. And then I was gonna call him. And that's kind of what I was explaining to the seller.
right,
Cause it didn't impact really the offer too much, but kind of sort of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was just weird, like boxes not checked, whatever. So do that, make sure it's complete. Confirm receipt. The more you do this, the more you'll realize I will prevent a phone call later if I just text the agent saying got the offer. Respond to the email. They email you, got it, thank you, I'll be in touch. So that's what that means. Get the offer to the seller in a timely manner. I don't know what that means. Everything in Utah is, and I'm being sarcastic, kind of, it means you don't wait 3 days, but
Yeah.
it means if it's at 10 at night, you don't have to call them at 10 at night.
Right.
So common sense wise, don't wait a day to present it. If you get it at 10 in the morning, it should be presented that day, no question. So timely manner, I don't know if that's ever been. What's the word I'm looking for? Defined. Everything in our contract is supposed to be, time is the essence, means
Yeah.
you move. But you don't have to be unreasonable. It's not, don't present them at midnight or anything. Creating an executive summary. I don't necessarily do this. I do this in my head. The seller doesn't care about some things. They care, their number one thing is what is the offer? And then I go into everything else. They don't care.
You
about
know, we're fine too.
They did a 12-day
Are they
inspection.
an
Who cares?
analyzer or are they a driver? No whole lot difference.
Mhm.
But ideally, if I'm the seller, or I think most sellers. When you're calling, you're like, I got an offer and they're gonna do a 12-day inspection and their appraisal is gonna be on this, who cares? Throw them the price.
Yeah.
We're at 400, they offered 400, great. And they want 5,000 in closing costs and then go into the details. So that's kind of how I do, it's more in my head than in actual executive summary. Call the lender if allowed in your area, it's allowed. When they send you the pre-approval letter, call the lender, make sure they're real. Have you verified funds? Have you looked this over? You know, confirm
A lot of
everything.
lenders will give you way more information.
That's true. And we didn't used to call lenders. It started, I don't remember when it started, but it wasn't always like that. And a couple of lenders got a little like, why are you calling me? It's like, because this is the new thing. This is what we're doing
So
now.
when you find the lender,
2017,
Was
when
it?
there was like more competition. There was lenders calling the listing agent and maybe
Trying to put
we should
a
call
word in.
you.
let's put a good word in, and now we're like, oh.
We
maybe
should call
call them.
I do remember it wasn't a super long time ago. Like we didn't do that when we first started.
7 years now, but.
Yeah, but when we first started, we didn't do that. But I remember a couple lenders were a little bit, I don't know if I should share that information about my client with you. I'm like, well, I kind of need to know. Are they
so
good?
what-
Did
what
the
are you
letter
calling
you
the
wrote?
lender for, just to make sure that the
Yep.
buyer is ready to go?
Yep, like, hey, and I asked them specific questions. If they say on the real estate purchase contract, let's say the house is 500 and they're putting 250 down, 250,000. Do you know they have 250,000? Because that makes a big difference
Uh-huh.
to a lot of things with the deal.
Yeah,
If they're putting that much down.
right.
So I'm like, have you seen it? And sometimes you're like, well, it's literally happened. Well, they're getting a gift. Have you seen the funds? Do you know where they're coming from? Did you talk to the people? Well, no.
Tax returns.
So did Blaine have one that won money out of crypto?
Oh.
I think Blaine Travis had one, that the buyer was pulling money out of crypto, but it went down, so the deal.
Oh, that's how we got a property.
Yep.
It didn't happen to us personally, but we put an offer in on a property years ago in Georgia and we didn't get it. And then we put in a backup offer, which nobody does there. And our realtor was like, people don't do that here. We're like, "Well, just do it." And they called us. The crypto went down and the buyer didn't qualify anymore.
No.
That's interesting, but we've never had one as a listing agent. I haven't dealt with that.
That gold bullion,
Huh?
that gold bullion.
Oh, yeah, you did. This lady said she had gold bullion. Okay.
That was.
All right, we're gonna skip over this for unknown reasons. And this is what we talked about at the very beginning. These are your three things. When you have an offer, the seller can do one of three things. They can either formally reject the offer, which there's a spot on the real estate purchase contract that they can click reject and sign it. But most often that we've noticed anyway, if we have an offer that gets rejected, they usually ignore you. Or they just say my seller is rejecting them. But it's nice to have that signature. Why do you think it would be good to have a signature?
From whose signature?
From the seller who's rejecting it. If I'm the buyer, why do I want the seller's signature? Not a trick question, kind of.
Just, I just feel, I don't know, probably just to make sure that that the buyer is very clear that it's been rejected.
Yeah, that I wanna know, like, did you even present my offer?
Right.
Did the seller even see it? So it's kind of nice to see that
Right.
rejection, but
Like, no, this is what happened.
yeah, or did the agent just not present it?
Uh-huh.
So kind of if you really have a seller that is 100% gonna reject it, you can't talk them into countering, I would have them sign
Right.
the reject, and that just protects you, like, yes, I actually presented this.
Like that lady whose offer got lost in your spam, like.
I
her-
feel bad.
Her buyers don't know if you rejected it or not because.
We
you
never
sent
saw it.
anything Back, right?
Yeah, and that was during the time where you've had a lot of offers, multiple offers, and a lot of us just didn't send back rejection.
Okay,
But we would send an email, at least something to the seller and say, hey, we had, and I like to give them an outline so that they had something to bring back to their buyers. Hey, we had 12 offers, yours was 9. So that they don't think, oh, we almost had it, or.
right,
I try to give them something. Just say, we had one time in North Ogden and the house was only 500 and somebody put 300,000 non-refundable earnest money. I called the agent and I was like, did you mean 3,000? Cause I didn't want to hold him to, he goes, no, 300, and they'd never seen the house. They were moving from out of state. And I literally was like, I was sick for this guy. I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, and they bought the house. So,
wow.
yeah, that was
I
nuts.
took 100,000 earnest money.
On what price
on
point?
cash deal with 700. And. John, I got a strong talk.
But I was on the listing side, so.
Why are you taking check? And I'm like, just
Oh,
cash
plus
the
it's a
check. It was a cashier's check. Yeah, it was a cashier's check. The office did not want me to be handling, nobody wanted to touch it either.
It's so funny.
Like, I'm like, Chris, sign them, or like,
Yeah,
buddies,
yeah.
he's like, no. I'm like, you guys.
I didn't even think of that part. I wonder what this guy's brokerage did.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that, 300,000 non-refundable.
Yeah.
But when I told the agents that didn't get it, and it was such competitive, I think we're at 515, I think we sold the house for like 580, like it was nuts.
We have
And,
30 offers.
oh yeah, maybe that one had 30, not 13, but I would tell the agents and a couple of them were mad, they're like, there's no way we didn't get it, I'm like, the buyer put 300,000 non-refundable earnest money, and they were like, oh, yeah, if you can compete with that. Feel free.
mine wasn't non-refundable, just to
That-
clarify.
I
Mine was
believe it.
totally like,
Yeah, but still, imagine his brokerage, non-refundable, 300? Holy heck.
So
But
how far, off
get
the
over it.
mark would an offer be to the point where you would just reject it without trying to count it?
okay, so
Or does that depend on? like,
That's a
how many
good
offers
question.
you're getting?
no, that's a good question. I talked about this at the beginning too. There's something called a blind offer. And basically what that is, and sometimes they can be okay. But typically what we're seeing is it's an investor from somewhere else. And they just write offers. And let's say your house is 600 and they're like, we'll offer you 345 and we'll close in 3 days. And you're like, seriously? I don't.
They're just like fishing for desperate people.
Yeah, and typically they don't send a REPC with it. They don't send a real estate purchase contract. It's an email. They'll say, hey, let me know if this works. There was a guy in the market in our MLS. I haven't received one from him lately, but I don't know how they did it. They just have you had to receive these where they'll just send you a REPC. And like, I just listed this 2 hours ago and like, how are you sending me a REPC? You didn't see it?
Yeah, they have alerts.
Uh-huh.
The agents, they're almost like pre-done, just kind of fill in. Send.
But like certain parameters, like an Ogden house, maybe an older, under a certain price point.
And
let's-
it's just like investors. Like,
Yeah. They're like, you're at 400, I'll give you
To be safe, to
320.
be legal, you do your list, just say anything under whatever number, if you're selling $1 million house, if you get anything under, I get something 900 or less, do I even need to tell you? They'll say, right? That way you're covered, because you talked to your client and made a plan excellence, because if you just make the decision yourself, and I'm not gonna tell them. And they're like, hey.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
Whatever, on your, then you run the risk.
This is my turn, Rhonda.
I feel like I've taken up a lot and I feel like I've already had that slide, so maybe it's like a circle.
We'll see if we
Circle.
can circle what.
This is my husband Corey, by the way.
Oh, cool.
He just kind of walked in and
Sorry.
started talking.
That's his driver. Driver.
Yeah, that's my shirt.
I'm Justin.
Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I thought.
Hey, you're not done.
Oh, yeah, I'm done. We're done.
If you're online and you don't think Rhonda should be done,
So how much longer for your classes?
I'm almost halfway done, so I just really started in like May. and
So what's your goal? When are you gonna be done?
I wanna be done by the end of August.
Do you wanna be or you will?
I will be done by the
Okay.
end of August.
So when are you gonna take your test?
The end of August, I don't know, I should schedule it.
All right. That's how you get things done.
Put it on your calendar.
You have to,
I
put it
should.
together. Otherwise it's gonna be October. You're gonna be like, oh,
It's a good idea.
things happen
Should
like
schedule
that. Yep,
please start this.
schedule it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't pay attention to that part. Negotiate. this.
Negotiate. We're gonna go quick. I got 45 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Justin's gonna, he's gonna buzz too, this. I gotta go feed her.
I
Start feeding.
haven't eaten today.
This is what we're gonna talk about, so we'll talk about it when we talk about it. Negotiation is not something to be avoided or feared, it's like you negotiate everything, right? All day long. So weird being over here.
It is kind of weird, right?
Come over
Cindy
here.
probably couldn't see. I'm sorry, Cindy.
She never texted me that said that she didn't see.
Okay.
This is a Keller Williams thing, why? Why it needs to be, I don't know. It's an acronym for win-win, integrity, customers commitment, communication, creativity, teamwork, trust. Equity, success. That's like their. That's their two-way. Are you out?
I'm so sorry to leave, but. we have to go.
It's gonna be good stuff.
I know,
so,
I
mean, it's your
know.
fault. There's missing out.
I'll be
I hope
here
that
next time.
counts for.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
I think that is still on. Yeah, you're still there. There's two options. After an offer is presented, you can just accept it, which is what I talked about with Rhonda. And I'm here to talk about, if you don't just accept it and you're gonna negotiate. The things. We talked a little bit about this with Corey, that like we would be. These two people here, buyer agent, seller agent, are kind of the advocate of buyer and seller. Like we're the ones that take the emotion out of the deal. We're the ones that say, you know, what's plausible or realistic.
Yeah,
And like if your client says, I want this. And you're like, that's ridiculous.
yeah,
Right, like, why, and find out why. I'm saying it's ridiculous. Okay, why do you, like, I had a lady, she's like, I want that clock on the wall. I'm like, why? What's this? It was a weird. But it was brand new, so I was like, I'll put it in there, but. Common points of, obviously price, this is like the biggest thing that we negotiate, that's, you know, it's the most important thing. Most of the time for either side. And then terms, it is probably. There's no. So preparation is key to building confidence. So, like when you. So in this scenario, we've got the offer. We either met with our client or like, so you're either meeting with your client or you're gonna talk to the other agent, right? And so prepare, like, know what the offer says. So when you take it to the seller, you know, you've already read through it. So you don't come back and be like, oh, I didn't see this part,
Mhm.
and it changes the whole thing, right? And like Rhonda said on present. Like, don't go through all the details and then go to the price. The number one thing, what's the price,
That's what they wanted.
right? That's the number one thing. Here's a price, whether it is or it isn't what we want. Or how close it is. Now let's move through some details.
Mhm.
And this move where both parties have a full agreement, that would be you going back and forth with the agent. I like to call the agent, I would call Corey and I would say, hey, we're $10,000 off, right? My clients want this, you're at this. Can they come up? Some.
Mhm.
I would just say, can they come up? And see what he said,
Yeah,
right? The one that talks first is the one that loses, or the one that talks the most, the one that loses on negotiation. Asking questions is getting them to talk. Yeah, know what your goal is, so you're talking to your clients. Your goal is to get them the most money. And get them moved, right? I think ahead, like what things are they gonna think are issues? Besides the price, is there a time frame that that offer doesn't work? Either it's too soon or it's too late. Obviously obey the laws. And you'll get to know the documents better and better as the more you do it, but I would really read through them multiple times.
yeah,
School teaches you how to stay out of jail. It doesn't teach you when you're in front of a client,
right.
and the more you memorize it. When you're nervous and you're talking to your client, it's a lot of money in your first deal or your 10th deal. You could stumble over something. For the more you. Ask purposeful questions, we just talked about that. So like, if the offer is low or it doesn't work for your client, like what would you be willing to do, right? If I'm listing your house, bring your offer $5,000 off, they want the fridge. Well, so if we got them to come to here, would that work? Or what would work for you? Do you really wanna drive the fridge to Texas? I mean,
Right.
like, I've had clients say, well, we want the fridge and the washer and dryer. And then I'm like, and I know that they're moving across. Like, you're gonna load all that stuff up. Or they're building and they're gonna store it for a while. So asking good questions.
Just kind of trying to help them see perspectives that they might not be looking at.
Yeah, but make sure you don't tell them, make sure you ask them. And then. And then ask them in a way like, well, does it make sense to load, does it really make lots like sense to load it up? Or. You know. If they're building a house or if there's, like, I've had clients take a break. Like they need to pay off some debt, fix their credit before they buy again. They're gonna store their stuff. Like, well, does it make sense to store it? Versus just to buy something. That you know will fit in the house. Where, we don't have the new house picked out yet. Allow you to get to know your client better. And they say win-win. Which is being recorded. You do want both parties to be happy that your job, like Corey said, is for this client. You don't want to take advantage of the other side. But your also job is for this client
Right.
to get
The best deal that
the
they
best,
can
the
get.
best deal, right? Yeah, good questions. What would happen if? What would happen if we didn't accept this offer? What would happen if? We don't get another offer? What would happen if this is the best offer we get? some of those things, right? And, you know, why is it important to you? Clients will sometimes ask things, and I'll be like, why is that important to you? Like, tell me more about that. I would say, tell me more about why this is so important. I would say why. Let's tell me more about it. I think why is like computational. Why is it so important? Yeah. Work with a partner. So we talked a lot about this, call the other agent. So a lot of times when you're presenting them, like you're going back and forth. A lot of it is when the first one to talk, or there's silence on the phone, and being more comfortable with that awkward pause. Because if, tell me your name again.
Kyson.
Tyson. So if I said, hey Tyson, like, I need you guys to come up and to list price, and you don't say anything, I'm like, well, like, how much could you come up? And
Right.
like, if you keep not talking, to some extent,
Then
right,
they fight back.
then it might make me be like, well, I don't want to lose it. So we can put it down, right? So that's what they're talking, nonverbal pauses. Listen to what's important on both sides. So like, what's important to the buyer, sometimes, like Rhonda said, I don't know if you were here, but Rhonda said, we've left the fridge and the washer and dryer just off the MLS, so it doesn't say it's included, it doesn't say it's excluded, right? And sometimes the buyer will be like, no, I need that washer, I need that fridge, I don't. And so that's super important to them. And it's nothing for the seller, because they want to include it anyway. Oh, yeah, I could probably do that to work. Like, if we could get the fridge, would you guys come to this point, this price point, right? Or if I can get the fridge, could you close on this date? Or if I get the fridge, can you give them a week to move out? Like, use some of those like freebies from the aces in your pocket that you know don't mean anything to your client.
Right.
And, oh, if I can do this, could you do that? Yeah. No one to walk away. You're welcome to ask, I'm just cruising along.
You're good.
And Cindy left, so it's just the two of us.
All right.
She didn't like.
Dang it.
Yeah, be professional is probably the number one thing. There's a lot of times appraisal will come in low, or I probably get most resistance on when they do home inspections. And one party will think that it needs to be done, and the other party doesn't think it needs to be done. You know, vice versa. And they're super passionate about it, right? And if you come off swearing or frustrated, and you bring that from your client and you bring it to me, try and negotiate with me, it's not gonna go well.
Right.
Or if you bring it to Corey, it's not gonna go well. If you brought it to Rhonda, it might, right? Like, certain personalities respond differently to that. Yeah, like, pay attention to your tone. Yeah, you can't swear. You can get turned into the board of realtors, swear, fine. Continually refer to your client's motivation. Yeah, like, what's important to your client? Like, what's most important to Like, I'm trying to think, if I'm on the seller side, you bring me off and we're negotiating. Well, we still can get them in, we just need to get to here. Right? Um. Don't reveal too much, we talked about this in the previous class, like, don't weaken your negotiation. By saying, oh, that, well, they have to, they're in the military, right, they're getting divorced. But if I let you keep talking, you're gonna keep revealing more things that I can maybe use later as, oh, you said your clients are moving there in the military. Right, or inspection and issue on an inspection comes up, and you're just like, well, pay it, because I know your clients have to move, so what's your option? You can sell to us, or your clients are moving, and, you know. Don't be attached to the outcome. That one's a hard one, because we're all attached to the outcome. If the negotiation doesn't come together, then we don't get paid, right? But if you become too attached to the outcome. It's, you're not negotiating this for your paycheck, you're negotiating it for your client. The paycheck is the. Benefit. You have any ahas or any thoughts? Since just the two of us, it's like. Probably just as easy just to talk about. Do you have any thoughts or questions?
Not.
I engage in every conversation in the spirit of contribution. People are happy to be in a relationship with me. Role play. Am I done?
Is it done already? Wow. That was the shortest lesson I've ever seen. Not even just you giving it, like the
Oh,
slides were like. That was like,
If you're recording it, done.
that was like a third of the amount of slides that they normally have.
That's crazy.
That
It
is
should have been that short. But it is. Yeah. Like negotiation really is. I'll go back to. Like those are super important, but it really is. And that is a short thing. What's important to your. What's important to your client. And when I'm talking to another agent. Like, I already know what my clients can and can't do to some degree. And I'll say, Kyson, you know, if I can get my clients to do this. Would your clients do that?
Right.
And I say, yeah, maybe let me go talk to him. I'm like, cool. And he'll text me, yeah, we'll do that. And then I already knew my client gave me permission to come on 5, give them $2,000 per whatever, right? So knowing what your client's position is, talking to another agent. I think when you're talking to a buyer or a seller. And you're negotiating, because you're negotiating here between agents, you're also negotiating with the client, right? And what happens if we don't accept this offer? I think that's where it started. Like, sometimes talking through. Talking through things with your client. We'll get them, we're done. Like, I was so fast.
So fast.
Rhonda took all the time and I was like, we're gonna go quick. And it's just me and Tyson, so
Nice.
the gal got off the Zoom, so.
So now we just get to have fun.
Now, how do we end the recording? So I can stay with everyone?
That's the.
Yeah. Cause we're really done. Recording.
Want to do a chat then?
Oh, she asked a question.
Oh.
But they didn't make it pretty. Maybe they didn't make it pretty chat. I think you can end it.
Where? Let's just stop share.
Close out Zoom and it will end up to last where you want to record it.
Hey, you should get that.
Got it? I know, I actually have to. Hey, got it, Justin?
I'll figure it out with or without
It's
you.
gonna say